Welcome everybody, my name is Elaine Rude and we're here today on the Day of Learning for the Garlic Fair. And today I'm going to show you a couple of ways of using garlic but preserving it as well. One is roasting garlic and the other one is actually lacto fermenting, which is sort of unusual but gives you fabulous results. So here I am, I've got some garlic going here. I have a bunch of cloves that have already been peeled and put into my jar. The jar is very, very clean. I didn't sterilize it, but it is freshly washed, so very clean. Here are my cloves of garlic, and what you need to do is actually just make sure that you peel all the paper off. Now this is fresh garlic, so it actually hasn't become papery yet. So I've taken what was papery off, but now I'm taking off this soft inner layer, which if I had left it to cure longer, would actually have become papery. So just make sure you get all of that off. And sometimes it's a little sticky, so it can be a bit of a challenge. So here we go. Now this is a really big head. The heads actually were ones that I had started from very tiny cloves, and so all I got were these very, very large cloves here. Not very many per head. So here I have my freshly cleaned, it's intact. It still has the little woody core at the bottom. I've nipped off the tip, and all I'm going to do is just put it in my liquid here. And I have a bunch of small ones that I already did earlier, so I have these were just the little bulbils left over at the top. They're just tiny. Pop them in, and the idea is you go around and you fill your jar to the height you wish. Usually if you're going to do this, you should probably almost fill it. So there, we'll just do this for now. So my jar is almost full, and I've made a brine, and the brine is the important part. That's what's actually going to kickstart the fermentation process. So what I've done is I have a cup of water, and it's important to use filtered water, not city water. You don't want water that's got chlorine or stuff in it. So you might have to buy a bottle or whatever, or let it sit and the chlorine will evaporate. If you want to really get the process going quickly, you can add a little bit of organic apple cider vinegar to probably about no more than half a teaspoon per cup. Per cup of water, you want to add half a teaspoon of coarse salt. And so I'm not actually going to make this because unfortunately I have to have city water here, and this is filtered water. So I've made this brine at home. I would fill this up, and then I would top it up almost to the top of the bottom of the ring here, so about here. You want to make sure that all the cloves, everything is underneath the brine liquid. Sometimes they float and you might actually have to put something in there to push them down. So if you have using a wide mouth jar really helps. If you have a little plate or a lid or something that you can put in and then put a weight on top, that will make sure everything stays underneath. And then you cover it up. So loosely cover it, not tight, just loosely cover. So I've just got some plastic wrap here with a lid. And then you let it sit overnight, and then every day you just remove the lid and let it burp, because it will start to produce gas. And you know the fermentation has started when you start to see little bubbles around the base. And as the fermentation gets going, the liquid will actually start to turn a lovely brown. And you just keep burping it every day, maybe a little more if you've really filled the jar full. And then once the fermentation is stopped, it will ferment probably for a couple of weeks, and you just want to leave it on a counter. You don't want to put it somewhere cool, just on a counter. Once the fermentation stops, it'll stop bubbling, and then you just take it and put it in the refrigerator, and usually you can start to use it probably 4 weeks after the whole process is started, but if you leave it for at least 8 weeks, it gets really, really much better and mellows. Now you can add other things to this as well. If you just want to do garlic cloves, that's great, but you can add other herbs and spices, so things like peppercorns, maybe some fresh basil, oregano, those types of things, and you can add them in. But again, it's very important that they stay underneath the brine at all times. Then, once it's fermented, you can take it out, and it will last in the refrigerator easily 6 months to a year, as long as you keep it in the refrigerator. And you just pull it out and use it as you would regular garlic. The neat thing about fermented garlic is that it sort of takes away that really sharp astringent taste that garlic has. It mellows it quite a bit, and you can use it anywhere you would use normal garlic without that really pungent kick. So if you had a lot of garlic this year, try fermenting a little bit. It can be a lot of fun. And the liquid, once you've done all your, used up all your garlic, you can actually use that liquid in salad dressings. You can use it, I read somewhere that someone uses it in a Bloody Mary, but it has a lovely garlicky flavor to it. You can also use the brine to kickstart another batch because it's full of all sorts of great bacteria. So the next one we're going to look at is how to roast garlic. And maybe people are probably familiar with roasting garlic. You know, you roast a head of garlic and then you squeeze it onto a chunk of toast or something. All right, so here we have our tray of goodies. And I brought along a couple of heads of garlic. I had a fabulous garlic harvest this year. I probably got close to 400 or 500 heads of garlic all over the place drying. So what we have here, and roasting garlic is similar to fermenting it in that when you ferment garlic, it actually takes on a lot of the caramelization sweet tones that you would get normally when you roast. So what you do is you peel off all the outside paper, so all this really papery stuff, you peel off until you have a clean head of garlic. Make sure you snip off the roots. This is a hardneck garlic, so I'm gonna have this head or stalk coming out, which can make it a little bit challenging, but it's still workable. So it's all cleaned. And here's one that I prepared earlier. And so what you do is you actually cut a little bit of the top off. So you want to be able to see the head of each clove. And you have to be careful because sometimes when you have a head, you can get smaller cloves lower down. You do want to make sure that you cut their heads off. So what you have is a lovely little slice across. And then I just put it in my garlic roaster. Now you don't have to have a garlic roaster. There's a lot of other ways you can do it. You can use parchment paper. So just a wedge of parchment paper, a head of garlic, and you want to make a little package. So you roll it up in a package, put in a piece of paper foil, and so it makes this lovely little package. And you can do several heads at the same time, doesn't have to be one. Another thing you can do is use a muffin tin and put the individual heads in a muffin tin and then invert another muffin tin over top. And basically what you're creating is this little garlic roaster. So you've decided which way you want to do it. We have our snipped off heads and we take a little bit of olive oil, and you want to make sure that you liberally cover all the heads, and you can even dribble it down in between the individual cloves. So you just want to make sure that each head is well oiled. And then you just sort of sit it as upright as possible. This one doesn't really want to sit upright. And then I put my lid on. Garlic roasters, usually they're about 300 degrees in the oven, and you roast for approximately an hour. You can do it in the microwave, though I haven't had a lot of success. I've managed to torch a fair amount of garlic. If you're going to use a muffin tin or the little packet, it's the same idea in that you trim off the tops like we did before, brush it with a little more oil so that it's really well greased, and then you want to make sure you fold it all up and seal that paper inside your foil package, or flip it over a muffin tin over top. Put that in the oven. When you do them with the muffin tin or in the foil packet, you need to do it about 400 degrees for about 45 minutes in order to get it perfectly cooked. When it's done, unwrap it. It will be very hot, whether it's coming out of your little packet or your roaster. Let it cool down, and then you just squeeze each individual clove and this garlic paste comes out. It's a lovely brown color, very caramelized, has a very sweet flavor. It gets rid of that after bite and that real sharpness that some garlic has. Unfortunately, when you roast garlic, it doesn't actually keep very long. So you have to use it within a couple of hours, otherwise it just takes on bitter tastes. But you can actually squeeze out the puree and freeze it. And then just freeze it into little amounts that you would use in a dish. And whenever you want it, you just pull it out of the freezer and pop it into your dish, and you've got that lovely roasted garlic flavor. It lasts about 6 months in the refrigerator, and so it's a great way if you're really affected by, the very pungent taste of garlic, to mellow it out, roasting it or fermenting it. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of these documentaries.